we are up, we are running, we are perhaps being absolutely blinded by a page that might be a little bit too bright. Hello everybody, welcome to tonight's Sublime Text Live, where plans are to continue doing the last little bits of what we were originally working on in last stream, which was being able to get the package for doing scratch buffers ready for inclusion into package control. So we need to make final sweeps over the code, see if there's anything we need to add, maybe start getting ready for that. Now we want to, one thing we're going to need to do for something like that, of course, is to be able to have this in there is have this in the Git repository. We're not quite ready yet to take the step of actually carrying out the process, because that's going to be something that comes in the video, but we should step through what those processes actually are to make sure that we remember what they are, because it's been a while since I've had to go through them myself. As always, if you have any questions about this or anything else we're doing, feel free to throw those in the chat. If you're watching this video after the stream has gone live, hello, welcome. Feel free to go ahead and drop comments down in the comments section as well. You can also hit me on Twitter at ODATNerd or on my Discord, which is linked down in the description below all my videos. And also in the Sublime Text Discord, perhaps you want to message me in a direct message on Twitter or on Instagram, or maybe on the forum. All those are great places to get help from me or other people about Sublime Text. Well, I mean, you probably can't get help from other people about Sublime Text if you message me, but I think you get the idea. So how best to proceed with this? I would also like to point out that after much personal anguish yesterday, a shipment did arrive from Amazon. I have the appropriate equipment for creating videos the way that I want to proceed, and I managed to play around a bunch yesterday, and I think this is going to be awesome, guys. And I've been talking about it for the last couple of streams. I actually had plans to maybe get a video out for today to explain this stuff, but the shipment came a little bit late, so I mostly just played around with a bunch of stuff instead. But the workflow on these things is going to be outstandingly so much easier than it was before. We just need to work out the logistics of the schedules for these things, because we're going to be able to really hammer stuff home. This is going to be fantastic. Let's make sure that everything is cool in the realm of the streamersons. Okay, that's looking good. I mean, that panel could be a little bit wider, I suppose, but whatevs. I say we just sort of hop in here and see. Oh, make sure I'm not actually accidentally playing music that's going to cause me problems. Nope, I'm not. We're good. Let's get into it. So what we have here is a little something. Hello, Ben. How you doing? I had a little bit of time today at work due to multi-snafu. Hello, Ashwin. I've been meaning to ask you, by the way, Ashwin, the Prisma syntax that you have, do you have it in a gist somewhere? Because I might be playing with that a little bit more. I had a little bit of spare time at work today because yesterday was the day where the company was shifting all of our source control infrastructure from the TFS stuff that we had running into a GitHub installation in our own corporate cloud, which was supposed to go a lot more seamlessly than it actually did. Basically, some work was needed with SSH keys because we require those now, but no one thought to let a lot of the developers know. So there was a lot of hiccups and roadblocks through our operation. As such, I had a couple hours to blow, if you will, and I came up with this package that we see right here, confusingly named OBS Scene Panel. But It is directly related to what I was just talking to a moment ago, because I have now the equipment necessary to make video recording at least 400% easier than it used to be. And it worked in testing that I was playing around with last night way better than I was expecting it to out of the box. I was thinking that I was probably going to have to spend at least a day or two playing around with various things, trying to figure out what the best way to do this was. But turns out, no. I mean, I'm still going to do that anyway, but it's not a requirement. It's probably the best way to say that. Remember, the way that I created videos previously was to record them on that camera right there, and I would record using this microphone into the computer, and that camera, wait for the video footage to be done, pull the video footage off of the camera, which requires pulling the card out and plugging it in, and video files at 1080p are large, and they're generally like, you know, a fair amount of footage. All of that footage has to be pulled down, brought into an editor where we can line up the video and audio, do color corrections, and do the first pre-edit to get the clips that are needed to assemble the final video. Well, that part of the operation, while it's simple to say, actually takes a fair bit of time with all of the data that's involved and things. But the Elgato Camlink Pro 4K arrived yesterday. Basically zero latency, 1080p 60 HDMI input directly into the system with as good a quality. It's imperceptible to my eye if it's not as good as the camera, just on the default settings. Being able to record using OBS like I do right here directly into the computer, scene by scene by scene, with the audio and video already synced up. By the time I'm finished recording, I already have the clips that I need to pull into the editor and go. All of everything has been done. It's going to be great. The only problem with that is that OBS wants to record things based on the date and time, because you're meant to be recording a 5-hour stream and not 20 individual scene clips. So I spent an hour and constructed this plugin. Well, this plugin, I guess. This is tangentially related because it points out that I'm going to be able to start creating videos sooner than I expected. We need to work that stuff out. And also as a demonstration of what it is that I want to get done tonight, which is we've been working on the Scratch Files plugin. I'd like to actually get a repository ready for it with the appropriate things to actually be able to test this thing. Oh, hey, thanks, Ashwin. You don't have to put in any special time or anything. You just mentioned that you had like an enhanced syntax. I'm not entirely sure what's even different between what was in there and that one, but tea's hot. I think I may have boiled the water a little bit too much. So, with that out of the way, and our little README here, what do you say we do that thing where we actually have to open a package, I guess, one more time. And the package we're going to open is the Scratch Buffer plugin. We're going to get this going. Also, since last stream, whole new cable modem has been installed, so hopefully the weird upstream dropouts will be a thing of the past. If not, the problem is upstream of me, and I shudder to think what would be required to actually pull something like that off. So let's see what we actually have here. We have a very brief README that mentions what it is that this can actually do. We may want to have a little bit more action in there. Maybe. We'll see how it goes. We have some commands that we have added to the command palette. We have a menu that will allow us to access our settings. I'm not entirely pleased with the format and layout of this, but I don't know that I necessarily want to spend a bunch of time fixing it either. We have our own settings here for whether or not hidden syntaxes should be displayed. We're setting that to false by default. Power users would be able to turn it on. And we have our actual package itself. And we got to go through this and just double check. Is there anything in here that could be a little bit cooler? Is there anything else that we need in here per se? I think probably that. I also like to do stuff like this just to be problematic, if you will. I lost my window. There we go. I like to have the Sublime or the core imports first and then all of the other ones later. In a little, I try to actually group them into logical chunks is basically what I'm trying to say. And the ones that are core to Sublime are different than these ones here. We have some code here for figuring out all the packages that ship with Sublime, which, the other thing we have to figure out is the build of Sublime that this is actually requiring, and I believe we can find that pretty easily. I think it's probably like 4081 or something based on the API that we're actively using here, but that's something that we're going to need to be able to set this thing up. We might actually even set up the actual entry that we want in the channel file this evening as well, and then maybe this could be the first video using the new technology. Although I do want to transition more into having a lot of videos in the hopper. I have a theory, and let me know what you think about this here in the chat or in the comments, of if I can make sure that I have a fair number of videos in the hopper, if you will, so that I don't have to worry from week to week if I get sick that I can't create a video. That would remove the one barrier I have to starting up channel memberships and setting something up like for 99 cents a month you show your support for the channel and all of the stuff that I do. And that might actually gain you access to videos ahead of a schedule. I don't know if that's the sort of thing that's interesting to people. That is something that, you could be on the cutting edge of all the Sublime Text stuff. Hello, Mohammed. Welcome. I hope you are having a great day. Is that how we normally do that? That's how we normally do that, isn't it? I think it is. Let's just very quickly... we don't need that window at this juncture. No, sir, we don't. But what we do want is... I don't have... Oh, I could have just gotten it from there, couldn't I? I'm not used to doing that. Oh, my eyes, ow. That's the wrong thing. Oh, is that why it's doing that? Oh, whoops. Oh. Hey, that explains a lot of things that went all weird for me earlier. The API method that we are actually invoking here. If you have any questions about Sublime, feel free to ask them, Mohammed. It doesn't necessarily have to relate to what it is that we're working on here. At any time, any questions are allowed. We're just sort of working through getting this package ready to be added to package control and the steps that you would take to actually add it to package control for the purposes of creating a video about adding it to package control. We're definitely going to need Sublime Text 4. We need... What is that? Oh, actually looking it up. So 4081 at a minimum. All right. That's pretty much what my recollection of that was. And for actually finding the syntaxes, that would be the list syntaxes, which is also 4081. So build 4081 is what we want to be targeting for this thing. All right. That part will be more obvious in a moment. So here's what I like to do for something like this, similar to what I did here. Let's go ahead and create ourselves a brand new repository. And the repository that we're going to create, we're going to call this, actually, hello, how do I pronounce that name? Hosway? I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly, and apologies if I'm not. I think we want this to be in the stealthy and hasty, I think, situation. A thing that I tend to do. Sublime Text for package for creating and working with scratch buffers. Okay. Private, don't want any of that stuff, so we can create yawn repository. So we're going to be ready to rock and roll with this thing. Now, what I like to do for my packages specifically is this. Actually, let's do this in a slightly different way. I'm going to quit Sublime. I'm going to start a terminal. I have a directory where I like to keep all of my code, if you will, local source. And you might have this in a different directory if you're using Windows or the like. We go to the config Sublime Text packages directory and move the scratch buffer directory to here. Go into scratch buffer and git init. Then we, in this particular case, yes, and that's what we're going to do to test it and make sure that it works. But for the purposes of the video, I am going to apply it the other way. It's not something that's strictly necessary. That might actually makes more sense to have it as my own package, huh? Now that we think about that. We can always move it around after all is said and done. But indeed, our organization has the ability to add any packages directly to package control without requiring the process that other people would require. I had not thought of that as a thing. Although, I do have a personal package that's in there. Maybe we need somebody else to do that part. Go into the packages directory and symlink the local source scratch buffer directory in, like so. So now when I restart Sublime, everything is as it was before, but we now have this in a different situation now. These files are not stored inside of the package folder. It looks like they are, but they're actually not. Now, that file has to remain in the root. When I set up packages, there's a certain structure that I like to go with to make them a little bit easier to read. And that would be to create a resource folder. And then we would put things like the Sublime commands in there and the main menu into the resource directory, like so. Not strictly required for something as small as this, but it's one of the things that I wanted to touch on in the video is a nicely structured package, if you will. You know, it's one thing to come up with a package that does something that works. That's of course the main thing that you're going for. But at any given point, and maybe this is just because I spend a lot of time helping people with Sublime. Someone may have a problem with your package or have a question about it, and then someone might go and look at it. And having it like structured nicely makes it easier for you to develop it and keep everything up to date and work inside of it, and it helps other people too. Hey, thank you. That means a lot. I'm glad that I am able to help the community. I'm really looking forward to coming back to creating videos as well. I was mentioning earlier, I got some new equipment to make recording easier, and I spent a bunch of time playing with it last night, and I really miss the creation of the videos, and this is going to make things so much easier. I can basically just stand back there in the spot. As long as I have all the content that I'm ready to go for videos, I can just hit a button, record a scene, hit a button, hit the button again, record the next scene, and have everything basically ready to go for the first phase of videos in a short period of time. And I think this is very important for consistency reasons, but also and speed reasons. I find that particular tasks, especially recording, despite the fact that I have like, I don't know, like 130 videos on the channel or more. I don't know, like it was like 2 years of weekly videos before I eventually took a little bit of a break in December based on crazy schedules at work. Besides all of that, just even now, speaking to the camera and getting the points across that I want to get across it takes a little bit of warm up. It seems weird after so many videos that would be the case, but definitely, you can see it at the start of a live stream as things are getting rolling, or at the start of any recording session, things go a little bit slow until they sort of find the groove. It happens faster every time, but it does take some time. So being able to just say, you know what, this weekend I'm just spending Saturday and Sunday evening just recording for the next 2 months worth of videos, and being able to just sit and go, it'll start going faster and be easier. I'm looking forward to. I don't want to overpromise in case I can't deliver, but I'm really looking forward to what is on the horizon with this stuff. All right, that seems cool. That is. Oh, do we want to have some screenshots in here of what our menu looks like? Because now I suppose we need to make sure that the package actually loads, huh? It should have. I can't imagine why it would not, but we can double check that. We can just go like this, package report, go to, it's an unpacked package. But where's the action for it? Did we break it? The main stuff that if you watch videos from early in the channel, you could tell that I was originally recording from here. Over time, I got a better headset and then a better mic. I then upgraded my lighting situation to more like what I have now. I have more lights than I actually have turned on at the moment to sort of help light things more evenly. Then I got the situation back there, which required a standing desk. And you can't really see, I don't think, but I have permanent light boxes up there as the kind that photographers would use to provide the lighting for the other part. But primarily the big expenditure was the camcorder, and now the cam link, which is going to make it so much easier to bring stuff in. That's just on the hardware end of things. For software, I use a software called HitFilm to do the color correction and initial edit of all of the video portions of stuff, and Camtasia to do the screen recording and final assemblage of stuff. Most recently, the stuff that I bought was the cam link, and then various related sundries to get it connected to the laptop a little bit easier, like a USB hub for the desk and USB 3 cables and 90-degree connectors, because the first tests that I did using I think I have it handy. I have a $20 cam link. Difference is night and day between that and a real one, by the way. It's not even a real cam link. It adds tons of latency to the thing, and the color fidelity isn't quite where it should be. pretty good for 20 bucks though. But I discovered that with USB cables just sticking out of the side ports on the laptop, it was kind of dangerous to move around the desk. So I had to get some 90-degree angles to redirect the ports in a different way. And they all have to be USB 3. It's a whole big thing. All right, well, I guess we kind of have a minor issue because now it doesn't want to load stuff in this package. Did we get an error of some sort? Probably don't need that in there still at this late date. Let's see. I did that before I started it, right? I put it in the wrong place, didn't I? No, I can't have, because otherwise that wouldn't have been seen. It wouldn't be a 3.3 plugin. Here, let's quit and restart it, and just to double check. Compare as we dare. Here's the packages folder. Here's the scratch buffer folder. It's got the stuff. It's got the skills to pay the bills. Jump into there. There we go. I think, maybe because I moved that file and it's not reading stuff quite the way we would like. Probably that. Whoops. We could create a screenshot of that to include in here to show what this actually looks like. I guess we would probably need to find something where is there anything that's providing syntaxes that are useful and not hidden? You know, lots of package dev ones, I suppose. Many package dev ones, as a matter of fact. Here's my webcam syntax. And SBNF. Oh, I haven't updated that in a while. That might actually be a good one right there, right at the bottom of the pile, huh? Did I change something in there? I don't think I did. Let us fire up that. Initially, we have a Python version file. This package requires Sublime Text 4 to run because it takes advantage of some new API methods. We have a simple README file, which we're going to clean up in just a moment. Yeah, they are everywhere. Oh yeah, do I actually have hidden syntaxes turned on? I should probably double check that. This is just going to be the initial commit, but we're going to do a bit of work on this before we decide one way or the other. So untracked files we have. And here's the other thing. Are there any standard syntaxes that ship with Sublime that should be added in this list? Plain text markdown. Maybe we want CSS in this list as well. And the main menu that allows us to get at our README file and the settings. And lastly, we go out of our way to make a README viewer that actually inserts the image inline. Like so. Let's call this the initial commit. This channel, I would say I don't like that. before we're ready to release. And then we go like such. So we have the first bit in. Now, yeah, I don't actually remember if I have to have that setting turned on. So we could probably say scratch buffer preferences. I can't remember. Show hidden syntax is just totally turned off right now. So that might even have gotten more interesting if we had done that. There's many more of them. Many, many more. Look how colorful that is. Woo! The trick is finding a place that's colorful enough to show what it's actually doing without being confusing for what it's actually doing. It's kind of the main gist of stuff there. We can actually see what those things do. Still minorly happy about that one, realistically. Let's do this. Let's do here. And whoops, that's not what I meant to do. Many people are still having problems with the Git repository after 24 hours. Whoop. Okay. Let's see. We'll throw something like that in there. Do our whoops, wrong order. Do our set and push. We're up, we're in, and we're in place. All right, now we need a library in this thing. That's kind of something that we forgot. So let's say we copy from the override audit package the the license file. I'm okay with stealing my own license. Also, I think we might want something like that here as well. We don't care about that file for this particular purpose. Just thinking about being able to redact some things out of this thing when it's done that aren't strictly needed. That's why we're going to put that in there at the moment. And we'll open up the license file as well. Which it totally didn't notice that is interesting in the extreme. So let's try something here. I don't think it's chasing down the symlinks correctly. Yeah, they do add a little something, don't they? I don't remember. Do you remember what people's initial thoughts on that was when Will unveiled them initially? Make sure that it's actively tracking stuff the way that we want it to. So we have a license and we have some Git attributes in here. So this is one of those things that I like to do. The reason why I made this repository here private to begin with is so that we can keep amending the same thing and get stuff going until we're sure about everything because of what we're going to be working on in just a second. So I'm going to stage that and stage that. We'll just amend the previous commit and push that back up. so that there's now a license in here. So we know there's a README, there's an MIT license. No one started yet, but no one can actually get access to the thing. So I guess that's okay, all things being equal. What I would like to do is thus, and we'll see what we come up with here. Just for our purposes here, view, oops, that's not what I meant to do. View.settings.set rulers. Let's not have anything in there for the time being so that we can no. I liked it back then, but I like it better that we can use the ish colors now for this stuff. That makes life a lot better for these things, I find. Because sometimes, you know, what we're specifically going for here is the green things are, you know, what you might think of as the safest syntax, is the ones that ship with Sublime. And the I ones, we need an example of one that color are ones that are actually meant for you to use, if you will, as opposed to those ones. Maybe those colors are actually backwards. Come on, hover me, man. Those are hidden. Should we make the ones that are hidden red to make it more immediately clear? And orange for the ones that are installed? I guess because we have multiple things there. Should probably think about that before we actively do a thing here. That's going to come back, isn't it? Yeah, that's what I thought. Packages that ship with Sublime are green when they ship. And we say red when they're hidden. And user installed packages are, nah, then they'd have the same color. That's not necessarily as cool as it could be. I could see those ones being red. So when we pull the thing up, that one's red because it's hidden, and that one's red because it's hidden. And if we find an I in here that's orange, we know that it's just something that happens to be installed, like that one. Can you please share your views on what Ben said a couple of weeks ago on the forum, that there are only 2 developers now? Yeah, I found that kind of interesting too, because I know that there were 6 at one point, but I know that not everybody, six people that work for Sublime HQ in total, but they don't all work on the same stuff, right? So Ben and Will were working on text, and Dylan is working on merge, and I'm blanking on the names of the others. I know, but with Will gone, I did hear, or we did see that they were hiring, weren't they? I'm not, if you're worried, if you're thinking like my thoughts on oh, ow. I'm not necessarily worried about there only being 2 developers, and I'm not even sure if he was counting John in that list or not, or if there was actually theoretically maybe 3, but John is more of an overall. But Sublime was the product of two people for a long period of time. And I think development is going to roll faster now. I don't think it, I was just going to say, I don't think it is. And my view on this, and I could well be wrong. I don't really have too much inside information or any inside information or anything like that. But the whole idea that once Sublime 3 was out and it was time to do stuff, we saw builds really slow down for quite a while, right? I see Ashwin's got the hookup. Yeah, I know. I think John is the one that finally does the merges. But I think a large part of the reason for slowdowns in those initial builds, and even in how long it took Sublime 4 to come out, was based around the idea that the license scheme was still one license per version number. And with something like that, it is, I think, extra important that you want to, because there would be a bit of, now there's probably a lot of interplay here, right? But you imagine that it takes a certain amount of time to actually come up with a new version of the software, and you know how many sales you're roughly getting, so you know what kind of a time window you have before you need more infusions of cash, for lack of a better term. And I think part of the reason why the build slowed down a fair bit is because the license terms were such that in order to come out with the new version and get people to actually, it needed to be something that was big enough and robust enough with enough heft to it to justify, we're switching the license fee here, and it's going to be the next version that you're buying, but also we're rolling into this new system. But now that we're in that system, and there's nothing to stop the developers from coming out with a new build with a new feature, because they don't have to gate it behind a new major version update. I think it's not going to slow things down as much as we think. Probably some, because there's less people working on things. And it all comes down to what's actually happening behind the scenes, because we don't actually know, right? But, yeah, I'm not too concerned about that myself. I know that there are people back there that are actively working on things. Although, like everybody else, I want there to be a new update every other day or something, because I'm not the one that's responsible for creating them. So, yeah. Also, hello. By the way, I don't know if I said that previously. But, yeah. Ben and Tim. David, yeah, that's the... I was thinking that was the name, but it didn't sound right to me. And there's also the support person as well, or the salesperson, Carrie. But, no, I think that's why we saw such a long drive on that. But with multiple developers working on stuff, I guess it just comes down to actually merging things, right? And I think we have more power, and by we I mean the community, to get things done in the standard packages repository as well. So we're doing pretty good there too, I think. But yeah. Faster is always better, I would think. What do we think of those as default colors? I wish there could be two little characters on there, so that you know that that's hidden. Would also be nice if my my situation would... There we go. That's usually how that works, yeah. And I know that some of the stuff that... This is one of those things that I don't like to fall into as a trap, as a developer. And I've seen other people do the same sort of thing. That whole idea of, you should do X, that would be easy. without having any information whatsoever about the structure of the code or how anything is working behind the scenes, what conceptually seems easy to do can sometimes be rather complicated to fit in or do right. And I think sometimes as developers, we sometimes fall into that, why are they working on that so long? That should have been easy to do without fully knowing what's going on behind the scenes there. Yeah. And now we're officially out, right? We're visible to the world at large. People know that Sublime Text 4 is here. I was going over some older videos last night and thinking like, oh, I really just want to sunset some videos and drop them entirely and recreate them, but I also kind of don't, because except for the fact that they mention how these things exist in Sublime 4, which doesn't exist yet, but we could add a little comment that says they do, the information in them is still valid. The perennial problem, don't you know? I want to add more content on the channel, not less. Let's do that again. Whoops. We want that. We find ourselves a nice selection. The end of the list was too terrible, right? Yeah, that's a little much. Let's say we go to here. Is there anyone that's concerned about the viability of Sublime as a product? Would be an interesting question, because I know some people tend to worry about that because there's other free alternatives out there. How could paid software possibly fight against free software? Although observably it kind of seems to. Where's that coming from? Oh, the file. I think we need an example that shows shipped, installed, and like that. Is there any more like that that aren't JS custom? Link. I don't even know why I have a link. Oh, I do have that installed still. I should probably get rid of that. I haven't played with that for a while, actually. PHP source. Look at the Prisma is cool. Okay, those ones are hidden. Shipped. Good grief. That's a bad sample. Package dev has a lot of hidden syntaxes, I'll give it that. Ooh, you got Ben's attention. Do you have a breakdown of releases by year? I always got the impression that Sublime had sort of been sitting for a while, not being, well, I don't say not being updated, but that it was in a lull period around the time that I found it, based on what people said, but I can't really pinpoint why it is that I think that. Let's do that. And let's save it to, what do we call this thing again? Scratch buffer? Oh, I hate you, GTK3 dialogue. I hate you. throw that in there so we have a sample of this thing. And add that to the repository along with that change that we made, because these two things go together. We were just having a little bit of a discussion about views on what you said about there only being 2 developers now, and whether things are slowed down. I couldn't remember the names of all of the associated people. I feel like I'm slipping. I used to be able to rattle those off like nobody's business. But and one of the things I mentioned was that I'm not concerned about the slowdown of things. I don't think that's actually going to happen myself, or with the new license scheme and being able to actually just release stuff without having to worry about building up a giant pile of you're going to want to pay for this. I think that really smooths things out on the release curve. My understanding of that anyway. Okay, let's change that and add that. And let's do that as well. I should probably check that that actually works, right? Crap, I can't. Oh. I think we want something like get archive format equals zip master. Or is there more action to it that is strictly required here? Oh, whoops. Scratch buffer.zip as the output. Is that actually doing something? I mean, there's a file there now. Why is it unhappy? Oh, because I'm a fool. That's why. There we go. Unzip -t scratch buffer dot zip. The Python, the license, the README, the settings, but the image that we put in here for documentation purposes isn't in here. So I think that's what we want for the purposes of that thing. We'll add in that change as well. And do that. Was that just say it diverged? I don't remember it diverging. I remember it being only one commit. Now, the next thing that we need to pull here is, I think we go like that. And what does that get us? That might be a little more rough than we're strictly requiring here, right? Maybe we just want that. Well, I don't know if I necessarily need the token, but thanks. So if we copy that, now, uh-oh. I lost, oh, I didn't actually have it as a thing. Ah, that is harsh. That is harsh, that's what that is. All right, well, never mind then. We want that. Did I pull the same sort of situation? I did. We just need to take this bit here and plug it to here. And then we can do that. The Sudoku syntax. Man, we haven't looked at that in a while, have we? Okay, the README is not correct. So let's go through this and see what we might like to do. We'll sort of leave that bit to the end. So do we want to set up an issue tracker thing for this, or issue templates for this? Seems like it might be a good idea to do something like that. If what we're talking about is getting your package ready for adding to package control, this is kind of out of spec, but also kind of, you know. The idea of getting stuff ready to help you manage your package, basically. But I can't remember what all is in this thing. Good grief. That might be more work than I'm technically interested in pulling off at a time like this, to be perfectly honest. You want to do something with that? I guess we probably do, huh? That part we don't need. This part we do. This part. Don't really update that as frequently as we probably could. Let's do that. That's what a bug report would look like. We're spelling behavior incorrectly because I'm Canadian. I don't think we need to have that in here. And those two things are done. Is support and contributing strictly required? How about this? Welcome and thanks for wanting to make contributions to Scratch Buffer. Whoa, what was that? Issue trackers for reporting bugs or for suggesting new features or enhancements, but that doesn't mean we're not interested in your thoughts, questions, and comments. Yeah, that makes sense. Huh? That's not right. We probably want more like that, huh? One of the videos I want to create is how to ask a question as well. That's one of those things that's been on the list for a little while. Because I sometimes get just questions where someone says, hey, it doesn't work, without saying what the it actually is. And it's really hard to do that. You know, cue obligatory XKCD nerd snipe, because I think we've talked about this thing before. But there's a YouTuber that I follow called Scott Fichter, I believe his name is. I don't think he has a different channel name than that, who does videos on live streaming with OBS. And he recently said a similar thing. Yeah, I didn't think so. You have somebody, well, I won't say replaced Will, but replaced Will. But it was just the two of you, right? 2 on text, 2 on merge, and then John and the salesperson. I gotta say, having worked on a larger team for the past year or so, I don't necessarily think that having more people working on the same product is necessarily a time goodness. A few months ago, if you look at his Twitter profile, he currently works at Uber, but he left, can't remember how far back it was. I don't want to be similar to Will, well, I want to be similar to Will Bound, pardon me. I wanted to see more of his tweets and replies. But if you look in here, you can see he announced when it was that it happened. Ooh, hey, I totally missed that. Better like that one. Anywho, a little wise back. Anyway, there was also some scuttlebutt because somebody noticed the job posting go up for Sublime HQ. That's spelled wrong. That's spelled wrong. Reflow. There's our contributing file. Well, I mean, we'll just go like that. And we need that file from over here. Well, I want to copy that link. If only there was a built-in functionality for that. How is Tim getting on with all of the coming up to speed with all of the cool technologies that are in Sublime Text? No thanks. Please don't break my URL. Do we have a contact thing over here? Yeah, I guess we kind of did, didn't we? How about that? Almost a year? Wow. Time really flies, you know? All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to say we want to stage all of those things and amend that commit and there. And then, once that's done, file or bug. good enough to get rolling initially, so that's cool. We don't want to try to push a release until the time is done, but that part is looking like what we want. So we're happy with pretty much everything in here except this README file. So whoops, let's see. Let's just tweak that up a little bit. Oh, double check. That ignores that. Cool. We open up this, and then we're ready to rock and roll on this thing. Now, when was the last time somebody added a package to package control? Is the real question here. Often when helping people out with problems they might be having, it's required to come up with a code sample or simply play around with sample text. Oh, when helping people with problems they might be having. It's handy to come up with a code sample or simply play around with sample text. What did I do? This simple package adds a command that creates a view, sets the appropriate syntax, and marks it as a scratch. Okay. An event listener catches a save. The package presents you with an easily browsable list of. Is that actually a word? I guess it must be. Look better like that. Easy to sort list, allowing you to quickly dial in to get the syntax that you need. It's also possible via key bindings or custom command palette trees. That's not how you spell that. What time we got here? We're doing good. We need package control installation instructions. For that, I definitely always look at override audits, README file. Get that. The best way to install the package is via package control. Search for scratch buffer. No one will notice that this is exactly identical. I think that was aimed at, it was something like it was a record for 3 to 4 stable builds in 1 year. What was the number of development builds? Is an interesting metric to see as well, because often those are like the real benchmark, I think, right? Coming up with the new features and iterating on them and coming to a nice sharp point on them. Okay. like that. We're doing 1s and 2s here, huh? Well, I guess realistically. There's our installation. And then we have like some usage action here. Oh, yeah. I guess I kind of like that other style too. Like so. I guess you'd have to crawl the web page to be able to tell, right? I could tell you how many builds there are because I have them all, but I don't keep track of when they were actually released. Although I guess you could just grab like the latest dev build and use its changelog, because I think all of the changelog entries are dated, right? You could totally find it that way, and it's an HTML file, so you could totally scrape it. The trick would be figuring out which one was which. Okay, so here we'd say boy, I am just lost my ability to type. That will select the okay. The package includes a command palette entry that will allow you to easily select the syntax for a scratch buffer and create one quickly and easily. There are also some command palette entries for some of the more commonly used syntax definitions directly or bind to a key. Does it actually add a command called scratch buffer? Did we change that? Nope, we did not. Never underestimate the fanaticism of your fan base, Ben. Sometimes I look that sort of thing up as I'm sort of shaking my head and scratching my forehead when people make those claims like, I'll totally implement that for you. It's quick and easy. Just open source it. I promise I won't share the code with anybody. It'll just be between us. I'm like, oh, yeah, why didn't I think of that? I should have asked to just have access to the source code to Sublime Text. I'll promise I'm not going to show it to anybody, but dang, that guy got there first. Bummer. Oh, by the way, does anybody know at what point the channel gained the ability to generate clips? Because I've been waiting for that for forever, and I just noticed it last night. I don't know how long it's actually been there. Okay. Include implements a command named scratch buffer. To work. If you pass it a syntax argument, it will directly create a scratch buffer using the syntax you provide. Okay. And we're gonna have it look something like that, aren't we? Let me look at the commands file. Or something like that. Because we might have, well, I guess we want a key, don't we? The command is scratch buffer and the args is that. Woo!
Success!
Also, I approve that. Feels good, doesn't it? Can you say what sort of super hairy bug it was? And what's the deal with all the people complaining about how their selection is invisible? Was there some weird rendering regression where things with an alpha channel don't render properly? Because I have not had that problem at all. But also, I just used the default color schemes for stuff too. I'm afraid I'm gonna have to tweak that. Okay. You're prompted to select the syntax to use. Change my language to German, but then I wouldn't be able to switch it back. Oh, I see. The people that are unable to enter diacritics. That seems like it's been a hot issue as well. So congratulations on that one, if that's the one that it was. That's got to be nice. Okay. Listen to each syntax is annotated with an S if it is a syntax that ships with Sublime. We don't need that. We don't need that. We don't need that. Then the last thing that I think should probably have in here is what I like to include in all of my packages is something like this. And we need one of those. Oops. I'm not even sure I'm familiar with that one. I don't even have that one in my... Definitely I'm not familiar with that. String to decimal? I would probably use something like that. But that doesn't really help with the other things. Cripes, now I'm having the nascent memory of the thing that takes a string and converts it into a number and gives you the pointer that tells you where it was that it left off so that you can handle, but I can't remember what it is off the top of my head. It's been too long since I've used C, but My pro tip from the other day was if your file gets all screwed up, you're typing something and you don't like the way that it's looking, don't try to resolve the situation by saving and closing the file unless you use Git. You probably want to try undo. And the actual setting that we want to document here is that this one. Defaults to false. Some packages, including those that ship with Sublime Text itself, contain syntax. That's not how you spell that. I can totally see why that would be a real bastard to find, and also why we haven't seen any dev builds. You know, if some low-hanging fruit is easier to pluck from the tree than others. Did something like git bisect help to track down whereabouts it went wrong, or was it just sort of obvious that it was around the time when you did that and it was tricky to figure out why? That's a lot of my life at work at times. Contains that are marked as so that they don't, whoops. Which defaults to false. In the list of syntaxes when creating a scratch buffer. Damn iron trees. In the list when creating a scratch buffer. And do we have any just sort of extra license because you can never have too much? I like the idea of extra license because you can never have too much license. So I think that's pretty much all we need for that. We have that. We can amend that commit. We can do that. And look at our little README here and see what we got. Installation. Menu. Don't like the looks of that. I think we probably like that part better. Okay, configuration, setting, license. Good, good, good. So here's the thing. We have this list of resources that are syntaxes that might be interesting. Plain text, HTML, JavaScript. I assume we want CSS in here. Oh. Syntax bugs are the bestest bugs. Let's do this. CSS. Now, scratch buffer. That works. Good enough. Plain text. Now let's change the order of these two. HTML, CSS, JavaScript, JSON, Markdown, Python. We'll call that good. And we can move on. I think we're getting close to something here. Once I make this public, I can't keep force pushing stuff. I know, right? Night, Raphael. All right, so we have this thing here. We're good. Now, I guess the real question is, we need, if we wanted to actually add this to something, we could make this thing actual public. Are we happy with what we have here for an initial thing? I think we are. What happens if you have a package installed and its location swaps to a different thing? That would be kind of an interesting situation, wouldn't it? Just make this public. I'm not going to type it. I'm going to do this because I'm aware of the silliness of what it is that I'm doing here. All right. The repository, she's public. Now, for the next phase of this operation is the actually adding it to package control. Now, I think that means we need to actually tag this with a specific version as well, don't we? Is this the sort of package for which it's worth it to have messages when they're installed? Is an important question for us to answer at this point. My druthers would be, no. That's not really related to adding a package to package control, so I don't think we necessarily care about doing that here. That's definitely the subject of a video that we could do, as a matter of fact. Hang on a second. Where's my secret? Where's my secret file list? Oh no, it's having a nap. You let me type, sir. Package control, adding a package. How do messages work? There we go. I don't want to lose that as an idea. So we're not going to care about that as something that we actively do here, but what we're actually going to do is create tag at commit v1.0.0 bang. Release initial version. Push the tag like so. From the description, that one sounded more like the unable to do diacritic stuff, but I don't know exactly what all was bundled in there because I have seen a lot of that locale stuff flipping around. I really got bitten by that one a few years ago because my distribution used the wrong kind of encoding in one of its default files, and it was a real bastard to figure that one out. I think if we search, we should now have one tag. So what we're gonna do is copy that. Let's say we put this in unreleased packages. that is not the correct location for that. I'll tell you that right now. This one. So PQRS, C element O PQR SC here is the thing where this thing goes. So whoops, shouldn't have done that. The name of this package is Scratch Buffer. The details of this come from there, and in the list of releases there is a Sublime Text greater than or equal to 4081 and tags true. This is the sort of stuff that would be interesting to people that actually want to know how to put a package into package control. And we're going to talk about this in the video where we actually record this. But in short, what this is actually saying is it's meta information for package control that tells it the name of a particular package, where it can find the source for said package so that it can download it, and that there are potentially several releases for this. This particular release, there's only one of them that requires Sublime Text version 4080 or higher. Without that, it's not going to work, and that's because of the APIs that we're actively using. Have a good day, Ashwin. We're probably going to be finishing up here in about 15-20 minutes or so. And we'll probably just run through some steps for how we actually pull this whole package thing off. The last bit of this is this tags true is why we created a tag in here. It allows package control to know where this thing is actually coming from. So this is a file that is directly could be added to your copy of Sublime Text. If you're using any of the other packages that are in here, like Scope View, Project Specific Keys, Python Docs, HyperHelp Author, and the like, this one's from Gwenzek. These are all things that you could be using if you wanted to. You will be able to use this momentarily as well. So include an entry for the Scratch Buffer plugin package rather. This is a new package that's going to be the subject of an upcoming video on the YouTube channel about how to get a package added to package control. For now, for testing purposes in the interim, moved when the actual edition is scheduled. And boom. All right. It's in, it's done. If you are using any of the packages that I normally use, you should be able to install and use this particular package now. Let's test it and see how it works. So here's what we can do. We can say subl -- safe mode. To start Sublime Text in safe mode, guard your eyes. It's a slightly different theme. The first thing we're going to want to do here is install package control and wait for that to be done and tell us that it is done, presumably. There we go. we'll be able to install packages now. What we're actually going to do is say package settings, package control settings. No, actually the easiest way to do that would be this. Let's see. We find the raw version of this particular file like that. Sorry for your eyes. And in here we can say package control add repository, and to add in that one, which is the raw GitHub user content for stealthy and hasty Sublime packages unreleased packages file from the master branch. Hit enter, and now we can do install package. It chugs. It's got to download the list of all of the packages, including ones from that file that we just added moments ago. And once all is said and done, we'll be able to find our Scratch Buffer package and install it. Here we go. There's a Scratch Pad plugin, Scratch Buffer, Sublime Text 4 package for creating and working with Scratch buffers. Hit enter, and Scratch Buffer prompt for syntax for C. And const char star argv. Learn to type. Scratch Buffer works dandily. All we got to worry about now is there is an existing package. I don't think it does the exact same thing as this one does, though, so I don't think that's necessarily anything to be concerned about. But it's interesting that that's in there. Scratch Pad. What does it actually do? I keep finding myself creating a new file every time I use Control-N to write something down. This plugin maintains a single Scratchpad file, which you can open using Control-Alt-N to view the contents of the file. Different situation than what we're actively doing here. So, there is no collision here. This is one of those things that you actually do want to do something with. Now, if we look at the docs and submitting a package, there's a list of steps to actually do stuff here. Review existing packages. Yeah, you want to. The overall process for creating a package is stuff that we've covered on the channel previously, and getting it added to package control, there's a few things you want to do. First, make sure there's not already a package that exists that does something like that, because having a bunch of packages that are almost but not quite exactly the same is just confusing for the user. If there's a way to not do that, or use your development efforts to augment an existing package rather than adding another one, that's generally preferred. It's not strictly required. It's possible for multiple packages that do the same things to still exist. There could be enough of a little enough overlap that maybe it makes sense to do that anyway. Nextly, you want to pick a name for your package. There are various things here. Remember, the name of your package is going to be the name of a directory, so there are various characters you cannot use because they aren't valid in file names. And since Sublime works across Windows, Mac OS, and Linux, it's very important that you choose a name that will work as a file name for all of those things. There's a list of characters here that you can't use. Similarly, you can't use dots in your package name because packages are also Python related things, and that gets in the way of that machinery as well. And we also have similarities of making sure that the name makes sense and uses an appropriate name pattern, doesn't use any characters that might not be available on all systems, and under no circumstances should you ever assume That's not the way to say that. Under most circumstances, you should never assume that your package is installed in the packages folder as loose files for you to read and access at your leisure. It's possible to do that. See this code here. If you add a no Sublime package file to your package control will make sure to install it unpacked. But generally, we don't want that. Generally, we want all of our packages to be installed packed. And that makes sure that the packages folder stays clean, for one thing, and also it gives you the ability to update packages, which you wouldn't have otherwise, because your changes will get clobbered and thrown away. You need to decide where you're going to host your package. You can store it on GitHub, you can store it on Bitbucket, you can create your own Sublime package file and serve it from your own web server if you want. Generally speaking, most packages come from GitHub or Bitbucket. As we saw in this example, creating a package for Sublime and getting package control to recognize it is as simple as creating a record that says this Git repository is the place that you want to go to be able to get access to this, and then it will be able to download the latest version as based on the tags, know when there's a new version that's available, and automatically update people. If you don't want to do something like that, you can generate your own Sublime package file, serve it yourself. You have to make sure that you serve it from a place that is secure. Otherwise, package control is not going to load it. And every time there's an update to your package, it's up to you to create a new version of it. So generally, that's not a thing that you do, but it's a thing you can do. I have seen people do this in a corporate environment, for example, where there is an air gap on some systems in some segments where they're not allowed to just talk to the internet at large. But there are some packages that are hosted from within the environment, and this would be an example of how you can do something like that. Pick a versioning strategy. Generally, what we're going to use is tags with semantic versions in them. That is something that starts with a V, and it doesn't have to start with a V, but generally does. And then numbers, 1.1.1 for that particular version, major.minor.revision, potentially with some suffixes like, a B for beta or things of that nature. But this makes it very easy for anybody looking to easily see what all versions exist and which one is the latest and greatest version. An example of semantic versioning is something like we just talked about, 1.0.0. An example of not semantic useless versioning is Mavericks, Snow Leopard, whatever the new one is. How do you remember what version is the most recent version if it's just the name of a thing? Oh, I'm running Cursed Yeti. Really? I'm running Abominable Snowman. Which one of those came first? Let's scoot around on the internet for a while and see. This is why package control uses semantic versions. Preparing our repository. You don't want any compiled files in there unless you strictly require them. Don't include a package metadata file because that will cause problems for you. Make sure your file names are valid. Make sure that you either don't have any files that need to be externally accessed, or if you do, that you've specified the appropriate thing. Now, here's where we come into the fun part, and this is where the video is actually going to touch on. After we've done all of this stuff, how do we add one? You need to fork the package control channel. We'll go over this very briefly here, but we're not actually going to do it, of course. The package control channel is a large file that looks very much like this one. It's constructed in a little bit of a different way. We might say, for example, that the repository that we're interested in is in here. The file that we're creating is scratch buffer. That means it has to go in the S file. And then once this file loads, by staggering non-coincidence, this looks exactly the same as this. Although I think I probably need to say something like TS equals 4 to make it actually display the way that I expect it to display myself, because I prefer 4-character tabs to 8-character tabs. Each one of these entries is the same as the one that we created here. It specifies the name of the package, where you can find it, and the different releases, including the version number. You'll find that almost everything, either it has to use tags true if it's new. If you see something like this, this is a very old package. this will still work, at least for now. It may not work going forward. Probably they want to maintain backwards compatibility, but under no circumstances will your package be allowed into package control if you're using the branching scheme. You got to use the tagging scheme. These are examples of packages that require a specific version of something. These ones, for example, require at least Sublime Text 3. These ones with the star in here can be installed in absolutely any version. You usually see something like this with a syntax definition or a color scheme, something that is generic enough that it'll work pretty much in any build without necessarily caring one way or the other. Or snippets are another example of that. You have to make sure that this file is in alphabetical order. That's why we make sure when we do this that we choose the file with the appropriate name. I'm going to have to go back one extra one because I forgot that I did that. So there's one of these for each of the letters of the alphabet. You want to make sure you pick the correct one, find the correct location. Now there's actually something called you fork that repository, make the change in your repository, and then use your change as a pull request in. Before you can do that, this talks about the various things that we can do. We can make a release only work for some operating systems. We can make a release happen only for some versions, as we saw previously. This package called Channel Repository Tools, its job will be to look at your cloned repository here, your fork, and make sure that you didn't break it. Realistically, the only way that you can break it is twofold: not including valid JSON or adding a package in the wrong place. For speed reasons, this thing makes sure that all of the packages are in the file in sorted order. There's probably other reasons for that as well. May or may not be strictly related to speed. So if you add a package to the wrong file or to the wrong place in the wrong file, that's something that could cause problems. It'll get kicked out in the review process. But if you use the repository tools, it'll make sure that everything is going to work for you. And you go ahead and submit your pull request. Now remember, as it says, pull requests need to be reviewed. They are reviewed by real live human beings who are volunteering their time. It's not a paid gig. They look at your package, they make sure that everything seems kosher with it before they will approve it. And approving it causes it to be merged into the channel file, which would then cause that package to be available to everybody everywhere and cause it to show up on the package control page as well. It's really a very simple process. This page is long. It seems very complicated. As we walked just through it just now, you can see it's pretty easy to pull off. You saw me creating this one in no time at all. That stuff is going to be the content of a future video on the channel. I'm expecting that video to be possibly longer than usual because we want to go through all of these things in order and really describe them. As far as I'm aware, the only information that's available for this online is this documentation. Sorry, this documentation. Unless I wrote a post about it somewhere. There's probably a blog post somewhere, but a lot of people have this question. This is going to be the topic of an upcoming video, and that's why we've been going through this. Thanks to everybody for hanging out, and I think, what with it being 10 o'clock on the bean, now is the time to jump on out of this particular stream. Thank you for joining me here. Remember, in my Sublime Text live streams and in my Twitch streams, which you can get to by going to twitch.tv/odatnerd, link down in the description of this and pretty much all videos, I would think. You can ask any questions about Sublime Text you like. You can ask me any question you like, really. If I have an answer, I will give it to you. We stream here on YouTube on Mondays at 8 o'clock Pacific until about 10, give or take a little bit on either direction. And on Wednesdays and Fridays, I stream on Twitch, where I'm still using Sublime Text, but we're working on slightly different projects. I will still answer any questions you have about Sublime Text and your setup as well. Plus, you can come and hang out with my community. We are a great bunch of people. We have a lot of fun chatting and talking about things in the industry, tooling, TV shows we've seen. It's basically an opportunity to just sit and hang and, you know, have a good chill time. I hope to see you in any one of those places, or in the comment sections on any of the videos I have here on the channel if you have any questions about them. or suggestions for future videos that you might like to see. I promise you videos are coming, and I'm probably going to be a new channel trailer soon as well. Until all of that stuff happens, this is ODAT Nerd, hoping you have a sublime week. And I'll see you in the next one. Good night, everybody.